Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. It's really interesting. After, 3 years of promising and saying to people that President Trump worked with Russia, and we have the evidence, and we have the proof, and we have this, and we have that, after years of saying that he did something that he did not do, after years of saying all of this and then finding out that there's no evidence of wrongdoing, nobody was ever charged with any crime associated with helping Trump to work with Russia to buy Facebook ads or infiltrate the DNC. That never happened. It never, ever happened. It never happened, people. So, when you have a situation like today where they already struck out with Trump worked with the Trump-Russia thing, they struck out with that. That never happened. None of it ever happened. But instead of simply judging Trump on the economy, so you can't say that Trump is wrecking the economy. The only thing they can say is, well, it would have been a record low unemployment rate with President Clinton or with President Obama. So if Hillary had won, there would have still been a record low unemployment rate. That's just the only thing they could say. They can't tell you that. That Trump is destroying the economy. They can't say that because he's not. They can't tell you that Trump has engaged in a horrific military intervention because that's what President Obama and that's what President Bush did. So what can they do? All they have, ladies and gentlemen, is the belief that, somebody got arrested associated with Giuliani, and therefore that proves that Trump was trying to work with the Ukraine to get the Ukraine to interfere in the election because everyone knows that any investigation into the former vice president, that is grounds to impeach because he's trying to ask foreign leaders to help in interfering in the election. But what happens if Biden actually committed crimes? What happens then? What if Biden did commit crimes? Is it possible that Biden had conflicts of interest that could have eventually violated legal statutes? Is that possible? This is basic logic, but let's just go. Okay, Vox today admits that if you look at the indictment, does not mention Giuliani or directly mention the recent effort to get Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. But there are several ties to the current scandal. Most notably, the indictment references Parnas and Furman's effort to force out the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Prosecutors claim they did this, at least in part, at the request of one or more Ukrainian government officials. So what does that have to do with Trump? What does that have to do with Giuliani? If it had anything to do with Trump or Giuliani, they would have been part of the indictment. It's pretty unbelievable that when you think about, what does this have to do with Trump or Giuliani? This is not even a controversy or scandal. This is completely fabricated. Where is the line between reality and what MSNBC, CNN, The Washington Post, and The New York Times, where is the line? The people who didn't vote Trump, their minds are being warped by all of this. The people who voted Clinton are going to vote Clinton again. She's running again, everyone. It's kind of interesting because, and to my super chat, thank you so very much. You give me every incentive to rock these live streams. It's interesting because people do not debate anyone. Do not debate anyone regarding Trump. Do not debate anyone regarding Trump's reelection. When Clinton enters, don't gloat. Well, I'll gloat. But don't debate anyone regarding any of this, because you will lose friends, family members, coworkers. They've entered a point of no return. And it's now you have the Southern District, like it's done always. The Southern District is an extension of the Democratic Party. It's really interesting how the Southern District of New York is always going after people without any direct correlation to President Trump. But where are the court orders for Brian Pagliano, the guy who helped set up Clinton's servers? Where are the court orders for Clinton's attorneys? Oh, that's right. There are actually agreements between the Justice Department and the Clinton campaign. There are actually agreements, ladies and gentlemen. Actual agreements that were signed that said that Clinton Foundation emails could not be looked at. So when Trump wins again, and here, it's really interesting. All you have is, he's so corrupt. What did he do that's corrupt aside from what? Tell me where the corruption is, because he's pretty honest with, I don't even know. He didn't work with Russia. He didn't ask anyone to help him. The Democrats actually reached out to the Ukraine. They did work with a Russian intelligence official, allegedly, and Russian government officials. That's what the Steele dossier was all about. So it's like I don't get it. Valerie Rogers! God has a plan, all will be made clear. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you. Rudy Giuliani's fixers for the Ukraine caper just got arrested. Fixers? Look at this. What fixers? If they were actually fixers, why wasn't Trump or Giuliani part of the indictment? And if it's a caper, why don't they just impeach Trump tomorrow? They have to create a hilarious controversy because there are people who view Trump to be the end of the world. They're not rational. People who don't like Trump are not rational. They don't care. They do not care. They absolutely do not care if people engage in behavior that's not lawful. Thomas O'Connor, thank you. Everyone, thank you for the kind words. This is all to pave the way for Clinton. She's going to run. This is the thing. This is the thing. They were all in on Clinton. They lost. They had to save face. Now they're trying to pave the way. They can't. The economy is too good. Simply saying that it would have happened under President Obama, the rebuttal for a record low in unemployment. Amy in Connecticut, thank you. Clinton will announce, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's November or October or a week before Super Tuesday, she'll announce, I am the only person in all of YouTube and all of media who's been saying this for 2 straight years, and also in the Huffington Post and also in the Times of Israel. I am the only person. saying this. Because they actually think that Democrats are a political party like any other political party. They don't see it's a political machine. This is a political machine. They were all in on Clinton. They lost. And they don't have anything on Trump, but so two people were arrested because they committed crimes that have absolutely nothing to do with Trump's phone call. They were not in the indictments. The New York Southern District did not put Giuliani or Trump or any Trump official, by the way. Okay, let's just say that these are fixers for Trump and Giuliani. So they didn't work for any other Trump official? Where's the impeachment? Why do you need an inquiry? Where's the impeachment? By the way, thank you, Eric H526. Thank you. Christ Light, you're awesome. Thank you for always watching. Eric H526, you are the best. Luke St. Martin, you are the best. Thank you both so much. And Eric H526, thank you as always for just your friendship and also for always putting up my articles. I wrote in the Huffington Post and the Times of Israel, and I explained she will lose again. Clinton is not going to win. Because the voter turnout is going to be a huge issue when Clinton runs again. This is a machine, people, that refuses to accept reality. Rudy Giuliani's fixers for the Ukraine caper just got arrested. Well, if it's a caper, then there's this grandiose scheme going on. Where's the impeachment? And if these are fixers, why isn't Giuliani and Trump part of the indictment? I don't get it. Two Giuliani associates tied to Ukraine scandal arrested on campaign finance charges. Well, what does that have to do with Giuliani? If he wasn't part of the indictment, what does it have to do with him? Federal prosecutors unsealed charges Thursday against two men who have aided President Trump's efforts to gain damaging information in Ukraine about his political opponents. That's hilarious. That's a hilarious statement right there. That has absolutely nothing to do with Trump or Giuliani other than the insinuation that there's almost certainly something directly to do with the president. We just don't know what. A criminal case that signaled growing legal exposure for the president's allies. As Mr. Trump tries to blunt an impeachment inquiry, he doesn't care if he gets impeached. President Trump's efforts to gather damaging information in the Ukraine about political opponents, it wasn't about political opponents, it was about the vice president who possibly committed crimes. You can also rewrite that sentence to say President Trump, in finding out whether or not Biden's conflicts of interest led to criminal acts, and then, go from there. It's just really interesting, like every single federal prosecutor unsealed charges on Thursday against two men who have aided President Trump's efforts. So they too were going to find out if Biden committed crimes. What were President Trump's efforts? What did they have to do? Like, what was going on there? Dances reluctantly. Thank you. I think it was. I can only see dances, but dances. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you as always for watching. Thank you. It's unbelievable. It has nothing to do with none of this has to do. They were indicted on their own, they violated campaign finance laws and did not accuse Mr. Trump of wrongdoing. The indictment of the two men sketched a complex scheme to violate campaign finance laws. Why did they go after campaign finance laws with anyone associated with Trump But there's a litany of campaign finance violations. We know from what? One congresswoman, we know that there's money funneled into corporations from a PAC. That's a campaign finance violation, according to 3 former chairmen of the FEC. Correct the Record was an extension of the Clinton campaign. The DNC was literally funneling money into the Clinton campaign. Where are the indictments there? It's really unbelievable. But it revealed new details about the push to pressure Ukraine. Nobody cares. Sam Jage, HA, what are your thoughts on encouraging more people to use critical thought in the current climate? Sam, thank you so very much, and I appreciate always your support. Dan says, thank you. Sam, my only thoughts are the following. Do not under any circumstances, and I'm speaking to, because everyone watching, I value and I want to just thank, and I value your happiness. I do not want anyone to debate a friend, family member, coworker. Don't debate, don't discuss politics, don't even listen or just have a discussion about politics with anyone who has derangement issues regarding Trump, because if you ask anyone to use critical thought, they will say, they will turn to hyperbole and say, why are you, supporting the end of the universe? They're going to lose again with Clinton. Clinton is going to run. And by the way, they're going to say that Clinton is a million times better than Trump, that she's more moral than Trump. Sam, I just think that people need to ignore anyone that brings up Trump, Ukraine, Russia, re-election for the next year from October 10th. Sam, Dan says, everyone else, listen to H.A. Goodman. From October 10th, 2019 to what? November 8th, 2020? Is it the 8th? Let's see. Hold on one second. Election Day 2020. November 3rd, 2020. From October 10th, 2019 to November 3rd, 2020. Do not talk, discuss, debate, argue, or even entertain the notion of speaking with anyone who has even the slightest derangement issues regarding Trump. I agree with you. Sam, I agree with you. You can't depolarize. Exactly. There are people who look at reality now, because Democrats are in for yet another stunning lesson in reality. They lost with Clinton. They had every single publication. They had their entire worlds. Their entire universe was based on Clinton's going to win and Trump is a horrible person. The economy is going to falter. He's going to destabilize the planet. And the opposite has taken place in every single respect. And they cannot. Their only comeback is, well, there would have been record low unemployment under Obama or Clinton. But that's not a rebuttal. Well, at least we wouldn't have had all of this. All of this craziness and nonsense with Trump and Mueller, and well, they fabricated all of it. What do you want? It is the biggest temper tantrum of all time. What do people want? It's the biggest temper tantrum of all time. This has nothing to do. This whole Ukraine thing is hilarious. He had a conversation where he wanted to find out if, number one, Biden committed wrongdoing, which he has every right to find out. And number two, Biden is on video bragging about, literally saying he's forcing a country to do something that he wants. And then we find out that there's conflicts of interest. Mr. Trump continues to defend the effort, which is the focus of impeachment inquiry, and House Democrats opened last month. The new indictment, however, suggests the first criminal implications of the shadow foreign policy that Mr. Giuliani pushed on behalf of the president. It's not a shadow foreign policy. In fact, Giuliani would love to be on CNN tonight or tomorrow to discuss it. Believe me, it's not a shadow foreign policy. L. Ron Humperdinck, hello. It's not a shadow foreign policy. They just want to find out if Biden committed wrongdoing. That's it. Not a big deal. It's actually, they're pretty, you know what? They're pretty honest about it, actually. They're pretty honest about it. They have no, they're not shy about talking about, discussing the issue of Biden and the Ukraine and conflicts of interest and millions flowing to his son. They're totally open to discussing the matter. It's Democrats and media who have stated anyone who discusses the matter is acting on behalf of a conspiratorial notion that is completely debunked, even though it's not debunked. And there's no evidence, but there's evidence that Trump tried. There's no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of Biden, even though he's on video bragging about forcing another country to do his bidding. But there's evidence that Trump wanted to interfere in the next election by investigating his political opponent, which is exactly what they did. Truth hurts 18. I've never been more convinced that until Trump, those in power purposely destroyed America to enrich themselves while pushing towards communism. Thank God for our disruptor in chief. Truth hurts 18. He is one thing I love about Trump is he is a disruptor in chief. He's a disruptor, and it's very good what he's doing. This temper tantrum, truth hurts 18. Thank you. This temper tantrum that Democrats have had. I mean, it's a really, really interesting phenomenon. Like, they didn't get what they want, and so instead of simply focusing on policies that they offer, do you have a Medicare for all bill that you are passing in the House so Trump can veto? Well, that wouldn't even pass the Senate, okay? But at least let it go past the House. Vote on it. Vote on climate change legislation. When you hear global activists saying, the planet, well, Democrats control the House. Why don't they just pass legislation? They're not passing any legislation because they don't believe in it. And it is another example of the extent of the messy power dynamic of Ukraine. A former Soviet. The impeachment inquiry began after an intelligence community official who worked at the White House raised alarms about a July telephone call in which Mr. Trump seemed to suggest that American military aid was contingent on Ukraine's help in unearthing information that could help Mr. Trump politically. No, nothing was contingent. It wasn't a suggestion. Zelensky did not feel pressured. And furthermore, Ukraine did not know that military assistance was being halted until a month after the call. And furthermore, there's no evidence that Trump pushed or used that as leverage to get them to investigate Biden, because he was already being investigated by Barr. William Barr was already investigating Biden. So he was already investigating the former vice president. Everything is phrased. Every single thing is phrased to every single thing is described in a manner almost written by a Democratic operative. But it's not going to work. They're not going to win the election this way. Unless the economy tanks, they're not going to win the election. Unless the economy tanks, they're just not going to win the election. So it's like, it's pretty unbelievable that, they will never, ever, ever understand that they lost because their nominee who cheated is unelectable. the Golden Muumuu will lose again and then run again in 2024. Winning is not about, it's not about winning for them. It has nothing to do with winning. It has to do with a political machine. They benefit whether they win or lose, people. That's why I keep saying they benefit, ladies and gentlemen, when they can win, they could lose. They benefit either way. They're going to raise over $2 billion with Clinton. Very likely over $2 billion. And they're going to lose again. But, I mean, until then, it's a matter of what they do to the average American. You know, people are losing friendships because of this. And it's not the Trump supporter. It's not the Trump voter. It's the person who cannot stand that President Trump is president. And Lord knows what's going to happen to these people mentally and emotionally and spiritually when he wins again. Okay? Media is not trusted. The average American does not trust media, but there are about 20 to 30 million people out of 320 plus million that will believe anything that CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post say. And they literally think that Trump is, you know, they literally think that Trump is like, you know, the end of the universe. President Trump's in Minneapolis. Yeah, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Trump headlines, Minneapolis rally amid Dems impeachment push, tussle. So, it's interesting that you have a situation, people, where it's only going to get... Oh, now he is speaking right now. 15,000 people on CBS News, the live stream. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, there are Democratic politicians, like if they were to have stream a speech that like on a good, like if it's like election night, I would get more than them. It's not going to be good. There are people who are not going to, they're not going to handle Clinton running very well. And one way they're going to handle Clinton running is to expect and demand and assume that everyone will take their medicine and vote for Madam Cyberhack no matter what. Those people you cannot speak politics to. You will be a big adversary of those types of people. It doesn't matter. It could be Thanksgiving. It could be Christmas. It could be a birthday party. It could be anything. It could be places that have there's no reason to talk politics. But you are going to be the one who is basically like, you know, helping expedite the end of the planet. You are helping bring the end of the known universe to its final conclusion with your support of President Trump. Felix, thank you. And it's just like, it's like he's not part of, this is not a, I love how they go after people that are somewhat tangentially associated with Trump in some way, that they can go ahead and in the peripherally, associated with Trump in some manner. And it's like, and then they get the public relations, but at the end of the day, it's not going to help. This doesn't help Clinton. Like, it does only to ensure that she has some people voting for her. Brian, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, everyone. The people who were arrested today have nothing to do with Giuliani or Trump, because Giuliani or Trump would have been part of the indictment. And they furthermore, they have nothing to do, the indictments have nothing to do with getting Ukraine to investigate Biden, because Ukraine was investigating Biden anyway. There's a Kenneth Vogel article in Politico talking about, we can go to it right here, and many John Solomon articles. Okay. Hold on one second. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. Kiev officials are scrambling to make amends with the president-elect after quietly working to boost Clinton. Kenneth P. Vogel and David Stern. Donald Trump wasn't the only presidential candidate whose campaign was boosted by officials of a former Soviet bloc country. Ukrainian government officials, well, first of all, that's also Russia. We have no evidence, by the way, that Russia feared Clinton. It's absurd. Uranium One gave millions to the Clinton Foundation. And then people say, well, that's no problem. There's nothing wrong there. How is that nothing wrong? If the tables were turned, they would say, oh, my God, Trump was a part of everything with Clinton. It's like you have to have a handwritten note to prove anything with Clinton, even though there's a litany of pay-to-play schemes. But with Trump, any insinuation must be investigated. But here, Ukrainian government officials tried to help Hillary Clinton and undermine Trump by publicly questioning his fitness for office. They also disseminated documents implicating a top Trump aide in corruption and suggested they were investigating the matter only to back away after the election. And they helped Clinton's allies research information on Trump and his adversaries. A Politico investigation found. DFA. Yes, hello, thank you. Bleachbeard Queen will win again by running her foreign policy accomplishments. Like, exactly. 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 It's like, thank you. Thank you, GF, thank you. They don't realize that people who are voting, okay, Clinton's going to lose again because you need voter turnout. You're not going to get voter turnout. You are not going to get voter turnout with Clinton. You are not going to get voter turnout, and you're not going to get enthusiasm because she's going to lose again. But again, it's a political machine, like I keep saying. And instead of learning their lesson, which they didn't learn the first time, what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, it was your fault, it was this, it was that, it was your fault. And now we find out, this is amazing, that Biden actually worked with the alleged whistleblower. This is hilarious. This is really hilarious. So, and John Kiriakou was on Fox News yesterday explaining, that this has nothing to do with speaking truth to power. Has absolutely nothing to do with that. If you tell somebody that can't stand Trump that the unemployment rate is at a record low, they say, so what? It was low when Obama gave it to Trump. Even if you want to mitigate any accomplishment, it's still a good thing. It's still a good thing. He signed criminal reform legislation, the First Step Act. It's still a good thing. Well, Obama would have signed it. Clinton would have signed it. It's still a good thing. And they didn't sign it. And guess what? He did help out in criminal justice reform, as did a lot of conservatives, actually. I don't think Kamala Harris is known for criminal justice reform. Ask Tulsi Gabbard about that one. It takes a second to undermine completely the presidential campaigns. And they haven't even gone after Warren. They have not brought up the failed DNA test, which will be absolutely hilarious if they bring it up this coming debate. So it's really interesting how there's so much. Then you get a CNN. CNN reports that Rudy Giuliani's financial dealings are under investigation by prosecutors. Well, guess who was a New York prosecutor and then mayor and knows more about prosecuting people than anyone currently in New York? Giuliani. So why wasn't he named under the indictment? Oh, they have to find out, all the. I mean, the money transfers thing is pretty easy. If you have money flowing into an organization from, Uranium One into the Clinton Foundation, you pretty much know what's going on. It's not that difficult. If they had anything on Giuliani or Trump, they would have been part of the indictments, and they certainly would have been impeached. Trump would have been impeached based on that already. They have nothing. They never have anything, and it's always just an endless stream of propaganda where people actually believe the nonsense. Then you say, well, the average GDP is higher than President Obama's GDP. Well, he had the recession. So what? It's like, objectively, Trump's economy is better. Objectively. You can say, well, it's because of this or that, and that's fine. But to mitigate a good thing does not overshadow the fact it's still a good thing. They simply cannot admit that the Trump presidency has been successful. Because to them, any success is overshadowed by their view of corruption, which they can't even communicate via impeachment. So Trump is so corrupt, he's so horrendous, but they want an impeachment inquiry because they don't have all the evidence yet. Because a Mueller probe that was obstructed by Trump, you didn't impeach him on that? I thought that he obstructed justice. You can impeach based on that. That's against the law to obstruct justice. Except if you're Clinton and you can just go ahead and wipe servers completely clean with a cloth. We need the golden moo-moo to just run, like I said she would for 2 years. They don't have anyone in the Democratic Party. So it's going to be pretty hilarious when she runs. The other day, she was like, well, maybe there needs to be a rematch. Really? I thought there was a primary going on. Aren't you worried about Amy Klobuchar? That's funny. Aren't you worried about Beto? Mi nombre es Beto. I thought there was a primary where there was so many great candidates. They have so many great candidates. They really have so many great candidates. It's really a lot of great candidates, you know? The whole thing is a theatrical performance. The whole thing is a nonsensical. It's all nonsense. And people are being, their minds are being turned into jello regarding this. Russia's efforts was personally directed by President Putin. Really? Really? How so? Did you find the paper? Putin personally directed U.S. election interference. Intelligence officials say. This is not a fact. Citing multiple senior intelligence officials? Really? This is supposed to be a fact now? Do they know any good stock tips? Who's going to win the World Series now that my poor Dodgers are no longer there? Tell us more, wonderful intelligence officials who haven't gotten anything right from the U.S. Maine, even before these agencies were created, up until Facebook ads and everything in between, the fall of the Berlin Wall, Bush's quagmires, the Bay of Pigs, the Gulf of Tonkin. What else comes to mind? Are they right about anything? Are they right about anything? This journalism is horrendous. Russia's efforts were personally directed by Putin because, he was so afraid of Clinton. He only got 20% of U.S. uranium, and he really wanted 80%. So he was very upset. U.S. intelligence is not what it is. They should look up what the word intelligence is. And then Brennan's like, I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. So, okay. There's no evidence. You cannot, in a court of law, you can't say, oh, Natalia Veselnitskaya was directed by Putin, because intelligence officials say. It doesn't mean anything. These intelligence officials are wrong about everything. And you have people who are frothing at the mouth. Oh my God. Trump is president, ladies and gentlemen. You are not espousing the extreme viewpoint. The extreme viewpoint is the viewpoint that's always proven wrong. When people come after me and say, oh, well, you didn't get the indictments right. He wasn't indicted. Yeah, you know what? I was right about the biggest issue, which is Clinton losing in 2016, and also Trump not being harmed at all by the Russia investigation because it was completely fabricated. And we know that now. Russia's effort was personally directed by Putin. Why? Because they feared Clinton? This is so ridiculous. They feared Clinton because Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin to speak about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. He actually met with Vladimir Putin. So then you have, the notion that Russia would fear Clinton when Clinton had servers that, if they hacked the DNC, why wouldn't they hack Clinton's servers? Exactly, Remnant 0888. They're probably going to blame extraterrestrials. That's right, Frank Zappa's on the wall. He was amazing. Big advocate of free speech, everyone. Frank Zappa. They reportedly briefed Trump last week on the possibility that Russian operatives might have compromised information on the president-elect. Oh, here we go. The president, that's right. They reportedly, so this was actually compromising. So Politico. So this is actually about the Steele dossier when they use the Steele dossier to fabricate everything. Look, do not, I can't stress this enough, do not talk about politics with any Democrat, any liberal, anyone who dislikes Trump, even a conservative that dislikes Trump. Do not talk about politics. It's not worth it. The chat is going awesome. They weren't named in the indictments. Giuliani is not a part of anything. Southern District of New York, you might as well. I mean, it must be really nice to have an actual the courts of a liberal state. In New York City, they basically have not only MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, but they have an actual city working for them. Meanwhile, there are campaign finance violations left and right with Democrats, and, nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wrote an article in the Daily Caller about Clinton and all the campaign, why she should have been indicted under campaign finance violations. And then Clinton, who is not running, definitely not running. Yeah, right. Of course she's running. And will easily win the Democratic nomination because it's a political machine. There's no free will. It's a matrix. It's a computer program they're all a part of. But, you had millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, tens of millions, 80 plus million, in one quarter or 2 quarters, being funneled from the DNC into Clinton's campaign. And suddenly that's not a big problem. Suddenly that's not an issue. So, don't tempt me, Clinton says. And people are still I don't want to hear about it, whatever, if she runs, no big deal. No, if she runs, she is going to run. When she runs, it's going to validate every single thing I have ever said about politics. It is going to validate every single thing I've ever said. When Hollywood celebrities are now best friends with Bush, George W. By the way, I don't care if you're good friends with George W. Bush. I don't care. But then don't go back in time and say, oh, you said this on Twitter, you said that on social media. If you're okay with George W. Bush, who had a marriage amendment. Give me a break. Give me a break. Truth Hurts 18. I'm visiting my progressive wife and her family for Thanksgiving. I'll be back on. Truth Hurts 18. It's interesting too, because it's I'm cool with everyone, I'm fine. Do your thing. If you want to believe something, believe something. But then what they say is, well, if you like Trump, it's so horrible that you're advocating something horrendous. It's like they've lost their minds. They haven't even impeached him. If indeed Trump is the embodiment of all things horrible, why haven't they impeached him? Why haven't they impeached him yet? They're going to lose again with Clinton. And when they do, Lord knows how they're going to react. But I can tell you there are going to be a lot more H.A. Goodmans. There are going to be a lot more people like me who were way left and then became Trump supporters. A lot more people like me. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you so very much. Do not, ladies and gentlemen, do not let anyone ruin your day or a dinner or whatever just because they can't stand Trump. Don't speak to people who have derangement issues regarding the president. Today, it was a public relations spin, the usual public relations spin, that will eventually amount to nothing and pave the way for you-know-who. Clinton is going to run again. I am the only person who wrote in the Huffington Post, the Times of Israel, and for 2 years on YouTube, the only person to do all of those things, to say that Clinton is going to run. I saw this a million miles away. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so very much, everyone.